ladies and gentlemen, let's move ahead with the two last panel discussions that we have for today. Our next panel discussion is titled as Industry 4.0, Leveraging 5G Plus for Smart Manufacturing and Automation. Now, this session is said to be a pivotal exploration of the convergence of Industry 4.0 and 5G, and how this synergy can be harnessed for smart manufacturing and automation. Our panelists, who are industry leaders in their respective domains, will delve into a transformative potential of new communication standards and networks empowering intelligent factories and streamlined automation. Expect insights on real-time connectivity, edge computing, IoT integration, and workforce upskilling. Allow me to introduce our distinguished panel. Now, this session will be moderated by Mr. Ibrahim Ahmad, Group Consulting Editor, CyberMedia. He's a veteran in the field of IT media. May I request Mr. Ibrahim Ahmad to please step onto the stage, everyone. Our first panelist, everybody. Then we have Shridhar Krish, Executive Director and COO, Tikona Infinet. Shridhar Krish is a prominent figure in the field of enterprise communication solutions, currently serving in a leadership capacity at Tikona. Shridhar is also the author of the book, Eternal Flames of Freedom, Stories from India's Freedom Movement That Remain Untold. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is Dharmender, Khajuria, who is the head network partnership Bharti Airtel. His expertise lies in the consumer durable products and telecom industry, garnered in a variety of geographical and multicultural settings. Dharmender boasts a wide-ranging skill set encompassing sales, distribution, marketing, operations, management, coupled with comprehensive P&L responsibility. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, we have Vivek Roy, Head Digital Connectivity and Power, Digital Industries Siemens Limited. In his role, he likely oversees the development and implementation of digital connectivity solution and power management strategy. With Siemens being a global leader in itself in technology business, Vivek's expertise in this domain is crucial for advancing digital connectivity and a power solution in various industries and sectors. Vivek, sir, a very warm welcome. Next is Purushottam Konar, Director and Head Product Solution and Engineering. Big round of applause. Wipro Limited. He is responsible for leading efforts related to product solution and engineering within the realms of IoT and 5G technologies. This role places him at the forefront of innovation and development in these critical areas, contributing significantly to Wipro's technological advancement and industry leadership. Last but not the least, Mr. Bhanu Pratap, Head of Sales, Niral Networks. Bhanu Pratap is a seasoned professional in the information and communication technology industry with an impressive career spanning nearly 17 years. His diverse experience encompasses various key functions such as sales, pre-sales, product marketing, and strategy planning. Now, their collective expertise will provide invaluable insights in how Industry 4.0 and 5G are reshaping the landscape of smart manufacturing and automation. So without further ado, Ibrahim sir, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, and it's indeed a pleasure to be in your midst once again on this very, very important topic that we want to discuss. And while we were doing our dress rehearsal some time back, we discovered that there is a lot to be discussed here and a lot to be shared. So 5G, how it's going to transform and revolutionize Industry 4.0 or digital manufacturing or smart manufacturing, whichever or whatever you want to call it. 5G has come in with a lot of promises, and at a time when the country is going through such a change in terms of levels of confidence and in terms of so much action happening, beginning to happen once again after the 2-3 years of severe slowdown. 5G appears to be something like a savior which is now going to transform and change a lot of things, not just for the consumers, but for enterprises also. And therefore, we are discussing about how 5G can really transform manufacturing. So, can I ask you and start with you, Vivek? So, tell us what exactly is Industry 4.0? How is it different from the previous versions of manufacturing? What's Industry 4.0 as per you, which is primarily a telecom technology company?
So maybe thanks a lot, Ibrahim and VND for having us here in this session. So Industry 4.0, but before I come to Industry 4.0, maybe just like how you had so many Gs, and then now you have the 5G. So you started with 1G, 2G, 3G, and then 4G and 5G. Similarly is Industry 4.0, right? So it started with the mechanical, then the electrification, and then the automation, and now it's taken the industry to the next level where basically both the worlds of manufacturing and enterprise are coming together. And basically, earlier there was a lot of data being generated in the manufacturing space, which was used in the manufacturing space and not so much used in the enterprise. So basically, there was a lot of automation already in the place. In the manufacturing, let's take an example of automotive. There were serial productions happening. Till what happened a few years ago when a huge crisis hit the industry, and it was a VUCA moment for them. And it led them through a lot of supply chain crisis, etc. and everything, and now the industry is looking at flexible manufacturing. How does this flexible manufacturing come in? Yeah? Unless and until you have a concept of digitalization, yeah, that is, you conceive the product in a software, you design the product in a software, and then you implement it, and then there is a real-time feedback that comes back. We call it as the digital twin. It's the infinity loop. Yeah. This is only possible if IT meets OT. And I feel that 5G, and specifically industrial 5G, plays a very important role in this. Because earlier there were technologies which were only till the shop floor. And 5G brings in three important parameters: the enhanced mobile broadband connectivity, the massive machine type communication, as well as the URLLC. And all these 3 points of the triangle constitute two different use cases in manufacturing. And maybe
we'll talk about
we
the
can
use
talk
cases.
about that. Yeah. So I hope I was able to give you perspective. Yeah.
So others would like to briefly add to what Vivek just talked about, his understanding of what Industry 4.0 is all about.
I think he has already explained about the Industry 4.0. I will try to focus from a 5G perspective. What are the kind of use cases which we can see? Although he has tried to sum it up in a very simpler way, saying that it is all about sensors, IoT, and digitalization, and so on and so forth, edge computing. If I say 5G, currently what we are experiencing is that the data speeds have gone up, ultra low latency. Now, how does it play across the industries per se? I'll just take a minute to explain. Just imagine the healthcare services. Now, I will come to Industry 4.0, which is the topic, but I'm just covering for a minute or so to how can 5G help all of us or support the entire country. So healthcare services. Now, think of a situation where in a far-flung area, somebody is getting some diagnostic done, and in the real time, the data is being sent to the doctors, maybe sitting in any metro, and again the reports are coming back, and you can simply give the required medicine or required whatever needs to be done to that person. Think of connected ambulances. Somebody has met with an accident, and the hospitals are getting ready for looking at the condition and the real-time condition, what is happening in the ambulance. those are the connected ambulances that we can see in future. And we, as a company, we have already experimented with Apollo Hospital. We showcased, that use case. So this is on the healthcare perspective. And a country like India, which is vastly rural, I think diagnostics are, the doctors reaching out to, the far-flung area through 5G, because ultimately it is all about ultra low latency. It's a real-time things which are happening. Similar kind of things can happen in any other industry, be it sports, the way we see the sports, the way we look at, the TVs from a different angles and so on and so forth, that can be brought in, I'm saying entertainment, the way entertainment is happening right now, maybe down the line, 2 years down the line, the things are going to be dramatically different, okay? Then we talk about, augmented reality, virtual reality, AR, VR, machine learning, AI. I mean, these are the words, but how does it help in manufacturing?
Yes.
Let me come to that now. From a, Vivek talked about digital twins. Now, digital twin, I mean, you are working on a model of say, a vehicle, a future vehicle, which is in a digital avatar. And then you're not really manufacturing it. It's a digital twin, okay? And then you can take a feedback from the customers, from the suppliers, from anybody, and then you can keep on improving. So that means the flexible manufacturing concept can come into play, big time. Customization of the products, customization to the needs of a consumer can come into play, okay? When we say manufacturing, then there are 3 aspects to it. First, I'll cut it into 3 halves, 3 parts. First is before the manufacturing happening, during the manufacturing, and after manufacturing, okay? Before the manufacturing is happening, you need to look at the logistics part of it, okay? From where the parts are coming. If you are connected on a 5G, which is happening real time, so all the logistics you can manage, the parts, whether they're lying in one part of the country or, in some other country, that can be, figured out. And then you can plan accordingly the way you want to, create your products. So just to give you another example, in the earlier avatar industry, say, not 4.0, say industry 3.0, I'm using a word for that. During that, if a line, which is assembly line, if it gets, there is any defect, then probably to use another assembly line to manufacture that part becomes altogether difficult, okay? But in this case, Industry 4.0, since you have used the virtualization, you have already done the simulations to see how this can happen. Suppose there is some defect and immediately you can shift to the, this thing. That means the efficiency and the efficiencies of the, industries are going to go up dramatically. Everything is going to be real time. So now coming on to the, the last part, which is after the manufacturing. Suppose the manufacturing has happened. There's a product which has gone to the customer's home, okay, house. Now, in that case, if there are any issue which is relating to after-sales services, normally we depend on either we look at the manual or we call a call center, somebody will come and correct it. But through, self-care modes, through augmented reality, or through the use of, what we call, virtual assistant, the product can be, rectified at the convenience of a customer. You don't have to wait for somebody to come and correct it. I mean, it can completely revolutionize the industry, and through 5G. Because ultimately, everything needs to be connected. And that is what 5G will bring on the table. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of thoughts have been shared about what are the use cases, right? I agree to all of the use cases. But fundamentally, Industry 4.0 has got about 10 levers, right? Some of which is, customized productivity, which is, again, the hybrid production models where your bespoke products come into picture, right? And there is, of course, data being one of the key levers of Industry 4.0, right? And another very important aspect of Industry 4.0 is IT/OT convergence, which you spoke about, right? There is also digital twin, there is also process digitization, right? So these are the fundamentals of Industry 4.0. Now, while we are talking about what 5G can contribute towards this, is absolutely in data acquisition. Because what runs every business is information. And what's available in abundance is data, right? And we define data sources as the triple M of data, which is the man, the machine, and the methods, right? Data doesn't sit anywhere else apart from these three. These are the three data sources, right? How do you bring data and bring data in real time, converge? So there is hyper convergence that's happening, and that needs 5G, right? Someone spoke about hybrid manufacturing, right? Hybrid manufacturing is basically nothing but decentralization of production, right? You're customizing products, but at scale. Imagine, it's a simple sentence, but it needs a lot, right? Customizing of products at scale, right? So you need to bring additive manufacturing, right? So which is your basically your 3D printing, right? So you have hybrid manufacturing, right? You have the robots, you have the scanners, right? So all of these converge, right, on the edge, and there is a lot of utilization of mech computing, right, which does the data, acquisition at edge, right, applies AI and ML modeling at edge, right, sends the metadata for processing to the enterprise or the cloud. So there's a lot happening at the edge, right? So this is why 5G is required for Industry 4.0, because there are two things that you're driving, your MTTR and your MTTI, right? Your mean time to identify a problem and your mean time to resolve a problem, okay? This is driving the bottom line of any operational unit which has got discrete devices across their value chain, right? So that's why 5G is very, very key for manufacturing and Industry 4.0.
Yeah, you want, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to, start from where he ended, why, 5G is more important here. So 5G as a technology.
On the Industry 4.0, is there anything else that you would like to add to what has so far been?
No, I would say that, I just wanted to add that how 5G, is going to add and support Industry 4.0. So I think if you want, we can start from there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So as he said, yes, understand a technology which has been crafted and designed, right, to do certain, use cases, right, and solve some problems, right. So whatever use cases, Industry 4.0 has been talked about, 5G as a technology, with this, high bandwidth and low latency, has that capacity. But what is going beyond 5G right now is for Industry 4.0 or something like that is private 5G networks, right? When I say private 5G networks, in an easy language, we can define them as a enterprise-defined 5G networks. The technology name is private 5G, but if I want to relate with an enterprise customer, I'm going to go and say to him, look, this is your network, right? This is your defined 5G network. Based on your throughput, based on your capacities, based on your use cases, you define it. I'm not going to define it. I'm going to support from the infrastructure side what is required, right? So that way, this goes more tailor-made, right, to suit to those use cases. On the top of that, again, 5G has various flavors like network slicing you add, right? You give a dedicated slice to different applications, right? Again, you are, utilizing the resources, creating the QoS. So that way, the data which was talked about, right, it is not interfering with each other and they are just doing their own jobs, right? So that is how I think private 5G will come into picture, and adding on to that, the concept of MEC, right? So you solve a problem which is as per their requirement, and then you bring the data back. So that is actually useful. The data which comes back, how they mine the data and how they respond it back. The response time, right, that has to be low. This is where 5G will come into picture. Private 5G networks will be more closer to the enterprise, and this is where, we as a company are focusing and making our products so that are more controlled by enterprises and they understand it, right? Not from the telecom perspective, were from the enterprise perspective. So that is where I think 5G will play the part.
Okay. Chris, you haven't.
Yeah. So I think a lot of our technology-oriented discussion we have had, and I was thinking, how do we bring the the customer into the discussion, the end user into the discussion.
So if before you start, can I just check if the audience has got any questions or any remarks, and then we move on to the next part. So basically, so far we have discussed about what's Industry 4.0, and then how does 5G or private 5G helps. So any questions on that? Any questions or comments? Anything that anybody here would like to add? Yeah, can we have the mic there, please?
See, as for 5G, Industry 4.0, marrying these two together, having a legacy in place, it is going to have a very big challenge. How it is going to be addressed?
So we are going to discuss the challenge part of it very soon. Yeah, we have that. But on the technology part or on the 5G aspect, do you have any questions or?
See, 5G we have evaluated for a company of our size. I am from JBM, having 70 plants. Investing so much is going to be a very critical bottleneck for us.
So we'll come, absolutely, that's a very important point, and we will take it up. So I think if there's no other question, then maybe we can move on.
So just so that we are, we understand this discussion more clearly, and it's always anything that is seen from a customer and an end user perspective is where you really start appreciating what this is all going to be. Fundamentally, what I would like to say here is that today you see the kind of transformation which is happening in different industries. For example, Asian Paints. How does it? Asian Paints today is more a data science company and less than a paint company, right? If you read the annual report of Asian Paints, you will find that they use more data science than any other company today, and their entire edge in the market, the competitive edge in the market, is because they know more about the customer preference, the consumer preference, the market, the speed at which they can actually deliver the raw material to the edge of the market. Now, edge here is not in reference to the edge computing, but edge is where he serves the consumer. So you go to buy paint. Actually, your painter, he doesn't have to go and choose too many colors. So today, Asian Paints gives you an opportunity on a virtual reality kind of an interface where you can choose it on a mobile phone, and you can choose which color you want to actually go for, or a color combination that you want to go for, which wall of your home. Now, there is a huge amount of customer preference which is coming into play now, whether it is buying paints or whether it is buying a car. So nobody is happy just going and saying, when Ford started the manufacturing, he said, as long as everybody is wanting to buy a black car, you can buy it from Ford. Now, we have come a long way from there. We also come up a stage where you go walk into a Maruti showroom and you say, I want this color, and tell you, ye to abhi available nahi hai, 6 mahine rukna padega. Now, we are actually leapfrogging all this. We are saying you can choose anything as a consumer, and the plant is going to be ready to even produce, even if there is only one order for a product, right? Now, in a line manufacturing or in a conventional manufacturing process, all this is not possible. Now, that is what is the change that I understand 4.0 is going to bring, right? So it is going to be driven by the data which you sitting in your smartphone or your drawing room or a bedroom going to decide, okay, this is the color that I'm going to choose for my car or my paint of my wall, and that goes right up to the manufacturing plant, and then it goes into the production line, and it gets produced and gets delivered to you through a delivery mechanism which will reach you on time.
And
Now basically,
could the manufacturer also charge a little premium for this
that's
special
again,
customization? Yeah.
no, that is competition. That depends on who else is able to offer, right? So it's purely that, right? So I hope,
Yeah.
we made sense out of 4.0.
Just to take forward this example, and then I want to tie it up to the gentleman's query. So, Shridhar mentioned about the data coming from the consumer, going from the IT layer to the OT layer, and going absolutely to the machine, producing what the consumer wants. But here I would like to bring in the digitalization topic. And this is, I'm again and again tying it to the technology of 5G so that it gets a little bit clearer for you. Now, what happens is, if this happens in a conventional manufacturing architecture, it will never work, because each consumer's demand is different. When he pushes his demand to the shop floor and the shop floor has to make his demand fulfill, it needs flexible manufacturing, right? Now, there is a challenge over there. Flexible manufacturing means you need these same machines to do multiple activities. That means you are not going to the same conventional architecture. You're putting a digital twin. You may be putting a product twin, you may be putting a process twin, whatever it is. But when the data has to travel back into the twin, so that if there are any changes to be made in the process for the next batch, or to be made, for the next model, the same thing can be quickly implemented. Now, why I am tying this point to 5G is the response time has to be finite for this. It cannot be infinite, right? And that's where the technology of 5G plays a very important role, I feel. So it's no more sensor, automation layer, SCADA layer, and the enterprise layer. It's sensor, edge, cloud. So there is a lot of compute power that you bring at the edge. And that's where probably, just to maybe take a cue for the gentleman's application is, there at the edge, what are you trying to do? You're trying to take inputs from various sensors, do certain computational power, have some compute, and send processed data to cloud. When you're doing this compute at the edge, you need power and you need to be ensuring that it is low latency. And this is where the URLLC of 5G comes in. And that's where you need to then know about your process very well, and then adapt it to the technology of either 5G or Wi-Fi, and then maybe that could answer part of his question, and others can.
And to add to that, for that question, see, it's very important to understand the use cases for 5G, right? In your scenario also, it's very, very important, because you need to plan out your day 0, day 1, and day 2, right? And that's where the entire planning of what you want to do with your 5G is very important, or rather achieve with 5G in your business units, right? Because day 0 is all about network optimization, right? You need to understand what is your existing network landscape, right? You need to then play with that, and 5G need not be expensive all the time, because if you can define the number of nodes that you need, right, it will not be expensive. But you need to understand which network needs to play where in your factory, right? Because there is a concept of fluidic mesh, right? You need to understand where are the blind spots, right? You need not have 5G there, but data still needs to come from there, right? So the network optimization layer has to be there, right? The entire visibility and manageability of your network needs to come in as you go into a deployment of a 5G on day 1, and then the managed services from day 2 onwards. Then you need all the FCAPs of your core, your RAN, and the other backhauling networks that you're using in collaboration with 5G, right? So it has to be a hybrid approach for you to realize 5G at this point of time, because 5G is still at a stage of the ink dissipation concept, right? When you drop in a glass of water, you drop ink, right? It will stay there for some time, and when it starts dissipating, it starts really dissipating fast, right? So that's where we are with 5G right now, but we'll get there where it will be extremely essential to have 5G to deliver all the levers of IoT. Thank you.
Yeah, so then can we move on to the next topic here, and the next question here is that what are the kind of gaps or challenges that you guys are actually seeing on the ground when we talk about Industry 4.0 and seeing if 5G is the answer for Industry 4.0?
So I would like to, start here. I think as a TSP, when we are reaching out to, or the other way around, when people are reaching out to us for doing some work on, Industry 4.0, digitalization, or, complete, creating a digital version, I think two things are coming. One is the legacy systems. So over a period of time, the factories have been built, and there are a lot many systems which have been built over a period of time. So it is quite difficult. I think that is the dilemma, that is a dilemma in the mind of, the officer, the digital officer, or so-called CIO, okay, CXO or so. So whether to do away with those legacy systems and start something afresh, or is there some kind of a panacea which will ride over to entire thing and, tie it up for their industry or their manufacturing facility to be 4.0. This is one. Second, I think still people don't have a clarity what is the requirement. I mean, that is I think some kind of a maturity is required, at that level, that what is the output which they want to see. They want to leave it, just like suppose this is a factory shop floor, they will make you visit and say, this is what I want to automate. Again, people are getting confused between digitalization and automation. Still, that mindset is, I need to automate it. That is not the point. Here, I think the opportunities are immense. The only thing is, how can you visualize that what do you require? And, those things can be done, provided, the other party or the manufacturer is ready to put, is clear about the BOQ. That is another part, okay? Now coming to the last part, which is relating to, say, the data. Since Vivek talked about, there is a huge data which is coming out. And because there are a lot many IoT devices, we are saying sensors, cloud computing, edge computing, and so on and so forth. So another question which is bugging the minds of people is, how safe is my network? Is there going to be some kind of a security threat? Will my network, be hacked? So I just want to put everything onto rest, saying that first 5G, from a purely 5G perspective, I'm saying it is secure by design. All the threats which we used to see in, say, 2G, 3G, the clowning, and all those kind of things, it is not there. It is, by the release 3GPP, 15, 16, and GSMA guidelines, it is very, very secure, and it is secure by design. Because there is a mutual authentication which happens, from the sender and the receiver perspective. You have to establish a trust, and then, it gets authenticated. Even, in the 5G, there is a feature which is called as home control. If you have visited another network, the authentication happens at the home level, only then it gets triggered. So I think those are the kind of features which has already been built into 5G. So from that perspective, 5G is very, very secure. And on the top of it, if you are doing a slicing of the network, that means you got a separate network, whether it is a private network or slicing of the 5G. It is separate network for you. Now, the only thing which I could see right now, and I may be completely wrong, since the technologies are changing every day, the new apps are coming, there will be billions and trillions of devices which will talk to each other, and then there will be no localized network. And then localized network will talk to the main network, so I call it 5G as a network of networks, okay? If that happens, then, the cyber hacks or threats cannot be overruled over a period of time. But as the technology is growing, so I don't see as of now there is any challenge, from a security angle. Thank you.
So these are the three gaps which or challenges that Dharmender mentioned. Anything else that we see as a major challenge to this?
Yeah, there are challenges, and that's why, you know, let's talk about the adaptability of 5G, right? From what we are seeing in different countries, and different countries in the sense because, you know, 5G success would come pretty much from, right from the policy levels of those countries, right? Two major problems. One, your device landscape is not equipped yet, okay, to adapt to 5G, right? Because the backhauling needs to change. And second, the availability of spectrum, okay? Now, in India, if you have to adapt to private 5G, you'll have to ride with, you know, people like Airtel and all of that, right? But I know of close to about 250 such deployments that are going on as we speak, including what Siemens has done in Europe, right? 5G's adaptability is very high there because, you know, from spectrum point of view, you have the, you know, FR1 and FR2, you know, spectrums, which is the FR1 is from 400 megahertz to about 6 gigahertz. FR2 is from 22.4 gigahertz to 52.4 gigahertz. There are no devices that operates on FR2. Absolutely no devices yet, right? FR1 you still have. But which countries are allowing you, right? For example, Europe is successfully adapting to this because the mid-band, which is higher range of FR1, 3.7 to 3.8 gigahertz, is heavily accepted. And it is a policy, government policy, which has come out, right? That's why Germany and all other countries are really, really catching up to the adaptability of 5G. US has released CBRS right now, right? Which is around 3.55 gigahertz to about 3.7 gigahertz, right? So that's the range, right? So now, but the specifications have just been released. So the adaptability is coming in. Right, so the challenges are from these 2 points, right? You know, what are the policies, how bands are being allocated, and how is the device network, right? So these are the two challenges.
Okay.
So maybe I would just like to also add another point, especially tied to the point that Dharmendra ji mentioned, that, you know, digitalization is more of a buzzword, but in the taking that buzzword, many industries are just automating right now. So basically, when India is going to become now the manufacturing hub, so the manufacturing industry in India is at a great cusp, where many industries at the moment are at automation level, or they are automating their processes. And automation is not digitalization. Well said, yeah. And it's great that it is coming from a TSP, so it's thumbs up. So totally with that. Now, one challenge that I also see, whether it is related to digitalization or automation, is the skill level of people need to go up. So to adapt to such technologies like 5G or maybe the latest technologies of Wi-Fi, the people need to probably, the shop floor, the workforce on the shop floor, yeah, not the CXO level, yeah, they're always abreast with the latest
So can you sort of differentiate between the two, the CXO, CDO, CIO level versus the shop floor level?
Yeah, so basically, I take an example.
Because I have heard of cases where even the CDOs and CIOs have really not the right understanding of what this all is about. And then people who will have to implement it.
Yes. Absolutely. So the CDO is the Chief Digitalization Officer in an organization, in an enterprise manufacturing, large enterprises which really want to, which have already automated and now want to digitalize, now want to make sense of that data and take it to the next level. What happens is the CDO has targets of implementing some digital solutions on the shop floor, on the manufacturing shop floor. And to an extent, they're successful. But what happens is, are they sustainable? Is the challenge. Because the people who are ultimately the the guys on the shop floor need to envisage that innovation. And they are unable to envisage that innovation, or they are not able to innovate into the new technologies because they are not ready to unlearn the old ones. And that's also one very big challenge. Maybe further you can take it up. Yeah.
Yeah, just adding to that, very, very valid point, because skill gap is one of the major problem statements in manufacturing or Industry 4.0. Right, there is inefficiencies to the range up to 40%, okay, because of skill gaps, right? And technology does play a major role in this, right? When you use, I heard, Dharmender ji talk about the use of augmented reality, AR and VR stuff, right? But technically, okay, we are right now deploying something in one of the refineries where 5G is really important for training, people remotely using AR and VR, because there is a concept in 5G known as beam formation, which did not exist in 4G. Okay, and that is beam formation focuses because 5G knows which subscriber is where, right? And it focuses on the subscriber. It doesn't just generalize the bandwidth around its group of subscribers, right? So that's beam formation. And when you click to video, right, is one of the options by which you can train. You can also do a lot of remote assistance, a lot of field support, right? But that will work if this beam formation works, right? And that's why 5G is very, very important for that. Right?
Krish, you wanted to talk about the ROI aspect of this whole thing, and before we really talk about what's really happening on the ground as far as India is concerned. So, when we were talking about the challenges and gaps, so is the ROI factor also one of those, and how does that play?
In terms of adapting any technology for that matter, because basically the Indian consumer, we are talking of India as a consumer today, right? And throughout our experience that we have seen here is that the Indian consumer is one of the smartest consumer that you can come across anywhere in the world. So technology is never overwhelmed by technology, and that's what is the most important aspect of introducing any technology. And like one of the gentlemen said, that there is legacy, there is something which is already implemented. So when as technologists, when we have to be careful that when we are going to end consumers, we have to go with a solution. We have to go with a solution approach which not only is technically solving the real gaps which would be there, but we are presenting a use case which is having a very strong ROI in terms of how the consumer views it. So because unless today there is a real problem. For example, I was saying that today Maruti produces maybe 3 million vehicles a year. Now 3 million vehicles a year, unless Maruti has a bigger problem to solve, which says that okay, 3 years down the line we need to actually start producing 6 million vehicles a year, and we have that much amount of time, right, in a year, and maybe a couple of more factories or few processes here and there. So fundamentally the question is, what is the real trigger to introduce these kind of new technologies, and where is that line where you say that okay, now it makes a sense to step up in terms of investment and bring in these technologies in. And so as important it is for us to understand the technology aspect of 5G, it is also very, very important to build a lot of use cases with real use cases with ROIs, and that's the groundwork that we should get into before we start hitting the road in terms of trying to go and sell this technology or convince people.
So if I may just add one a tiny point over here. So this actually hit us in Siemens, what he's saying, yeah. So we all know because of COVID, post-COVID, the supply chain crisis, yeah, it hit us very well. So we have a manufacturing unit in Germany, which produces a lot of communication equipments, automation equipments. It's based out of a location called as Karlsruhe. And VUCA moment came in. And we didn't have the parts to produce what was required by the customer. And this is where I want to bring in that we had to change the way we manufacture. We had to move away from the conventional manufacturing that, you know, we maintain some stock levels in the shop floor, just like what he's mentioning. It completely became a customized manufacturing shop floor.
But are you then talking about huge investments?
Yeah, so I'm coming to that. So what happened is, so VUCA hits manufacturing, and then what do? You have to change. So what we did is we adapted industrial 5G to that plant, where we took the AGVs, the AMRs, we brought in AGVs, we brought in AMRs, we brought in cobots, collaboration robots, etc. And we made the supply chain into the factory extremely flexible. Yeah, so that whatever is available to us, we can manufacture and the factory doesn't stay idle.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and this is a brilliant example of how 5G as a technology has played a very important role.
Yeah.
That's my last.
I think there is a lot
Brilliant
of,
point.
Lot has been spoken about automation.
Yeah, we have about, I
Yeah.
think, a couple of minutes
So
before we wrap up.
Very quickly
Yeah.
about, let's not forget the human factor here. We
Yeah.
spoke a lot about 5G, a lot about automation, right? Nothing can replace human intelligence as such, right? So smart manufacturing is all about smart workflows, okay? So when we build solutions, we should focus on smart workflows, enabling the human, right? And he spoke about cobots, right? Cobots can, transport pieces of equipments from one station to another station. Human need not do that, right? Human needs to do what he or she is capable of, right? And adding value to that, right? By bringing in smart workflows. And for that, data is required, and for that, 5G.
So there I
human
think
factor
Wipro is doing something
Yes.
so can you very quickly elaborate on that?
Yeah. So we are transforming many manufacturing units across the globe, right? And bringing in the process automations, right? IT/OT convergence, as well as skill gap, addressing the skill gap problems, right? Training people, right? Bringing in, a lot of production line automation, and deploying private 5G purely to enable that one person, okay, who is supposed to, so in a Mercedes-Benz, production line, right? Mercedes-Benz, in fact, measures how much amount of pressure did you apply to even fix a screw, and which screw, fixing instrument did you use, who did it, right? All of this goes into their big data, right? Now, this enables someone to take a decision on how this needs to be, fine-tuned, and the someone who's doing it on the shop floor will be enabled with that smart workflow that do it this way, right? So that someone is very important in every single value chain.
So one question that I wanted to ask was that what's the ground reality here in India? Are we seeing Industry 4.0 implementations beginning to happen? Are you meeting customers who are considering it, or have they moved into some level of deployment?
There is a lot of adaptability happening, right? And
The
basically
only
two
example that I
fundamental
heard in
uses.
this 45-minute discussion
Yes.
was the Asian Paints example, but beyond that, are there examples that we
There
can
is.
share with maybe without taking names?
Without taking names, yes, there is a lot happening in oil and gas, right? There is a lot happening because oil and gas is the green field for this, okay? So oil and gas and discrete manufacturing, in fact, manufacturing in mining and natural, resources sector as well, right? There is a lot of deployment of this going on, specifically with digitization, with data, right? Discrete hybrid manufacturing, and the skill gap training, right? So these aspects of Industry 4.0 is taking a lot of adaptability in India right now.
That's it. Adding to that, right, we are also working on certain projects, especially in mining, oil and gas refinery, manufacturing plants, which are bigger like steel and all. This is a very active discussions are going on, and the pilots are in place. So yes, they want to understand and they want to see how those problems can be solved and new things can come up. Just adding to that, the example Vivek gave substantiate that 5G can be a game changer, right? If you really want to know how you want to use it and how you use it, for example. Second is scaling it down to a private 5G network which is defined by the customer, right? Then you hold the cost, right? Then he decides the cost, I don't decide the cost. So that is where the cost has to be controlled, and it can start from a single use case, which is a bigger problem to him today. And then once they establish the network, they get the confidence, they get the ROIs out of it, and then they slowly start expanding it. Sir asked about a question about there is a legacy system. Yes, you have a legacy system, right? But with 5G, you can have a new use case, which you can introduce as an independent right now. And tomorrow, you can see how that's integrated, right? With Wi-Fi integrating into 5G, which is coming very soon. We are working on such technology. There are, I think, TSN kind of concepts, which can, put Ethernet also onto the 5G. So there are many things which will come in future. But today, you can see where you want to use the 5G, right? Forget about what you have today. Do not transform the entire thing in one day, right? That is going to be a huge, and then you will see the costs are right. So just add what is required today, what you want to get out of 5G, and then you move up, right? So that is where we also are creating our products which fit into that customized mode.
Maybe just
very quickly.
okay.
Then I'll ask
just
the
a
last
very
question to
short, very short input to this point, picking up from where he's mentioned. See, when we go for any 5G deployment, and especially in the manufacturing space, we should not treat it like just going there and doing a site survey. It is not the topic of a site survey. You need domain expertise, yeah? You need to carry the people who know about manufacturing and who are domain experts, because the use cases are going to come from the manufacturing side, yeah? So it's not only about a site survey and deploying a wireless infrastructure, whether it is 5G or Wi-Fi 6, but you have to look at the use case. Like, does it make sense for me to go in for this technology or not? So there's a consulting piece, and this consulting piece comes only from domain experts who know about manufacturing and who are into this piece. Yeah.
So just adding to that, so what happens today is, if you go to any enterprise, right, any refinery or something, they will straight away tell you, do entire my campus, make it 5G, right? That is what their understanding is. So if you start doing that, then next day he will not talk to you because the cost will be huge. So we have to go and, like I said, we have to consult them, tell them, this is the way, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you go for it, right? Otherwise their approach is, my 2,000 acre, okay, make it complete 5G. That's it.
Okay, Dharmender and Shridhar, the last word from you before we wrap up. Yeah.
Okay. So I think adding on to what already has been said, that what are the areas or the industries where we are working, okay? So Vivek talked about, that system integrator are the domain experts. So we are already in touch, because from a TSP perspective, we have already, paid for the spectrum. We are already deploying the sites. We are the ones who would love to see, the proliferation of Industry 4.0 so that, so that we can get the ROIs for us also, okay? Now we are working with the domain experts to look at the ports, okay? We are working with some companies for the ports. We are working with airport authorities. We are working with, in the mining per se, because mining is again one thing where the hazardous are dangerous things can happen, and there are robotic arms, or the robots can come into play. Similarly, in the smart agriculture, so lot of, pilots are happening. As I, in the beginning, I talked about healthcare. We are already looking at healthcare. So a lot of things are happening right now. This is what I can assure all of us, that a lot of things are happening. It's just a matter of time that we see the commercial part of it and, the real proliferation of, Industry 4.0 along with 5G. Thank you.
Sridhar, you would like to?
I will just give an example, right, about the use cases, the importance of use cases we talked about. Within this week, I am not highlighting it from the other perspective, from our side. We won a hackathon, right, from Coal in Ministry. And I just want to tell the importance of use case. There were some big names over there. We are a startup and we won it. The only reason was that our use case, they understood. They didn't understood 5G, but they understood that this use case, if I use tomorrow, is going to change my mining industry. And that is what won for us, right? So that's just what the use case importance.
No, I think pretty much everything has been said. I don't have anything to add on top of what my panel has spoken, my co-panelists have spoken. I'll just make one last point saying that, ultimately, if you put, in context what this whole discussion is, that today the whole mobile technology ecosystem is a one device, one person ecosystem. And, assuming that we are today, a $2 or $3 or less than $2 per ARPU kind of an industry, we are still, struggling as an industry to really meet ends in terms of, the kind of investments that have gone into the industry. I think the biggest opportunity here, which is, in front of all of us, one, of course, that, India is at the cusp in terms of how digitalization of pretty much every side of business, whether on one side it is Aadhaar, UPI, the finance stack, the implementation of the Jandan, Aadhaar and mobile on one side, it is going to throw up so much of data which is going to be demand oriented, which is going to be demand of all kinds of products and services. And ultimately this has to get translated into something which has to get manufactured here. And that you have to understand from where is that kind of demand going to be met, because you'll have to start producing more, because this is a very young country. This country has got, the largest population of young people. So 60% or more are less than 30 years in this country. So in terms of demand for goods, services, products, and the fact that, we have suddenly woken up, even though late, we have woken up to the fact that manufacturing is going to be the next big opportunity for this country. China took this opportunity 30 years back, right, in 90s, and we have suddenly woken up to say that, we want to become a Atma-Nirbhar society or a country. So this is where actually the huge opportunity lies in implementing these technologies and really deepening the implementation of some of these products, processes, technologies, and that's where the real opportunities are. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. I think there is still a lot that we can discuss. I think IoT is one of the things that we perhaps could have spent more time on. But thank you so much. I think it was a very interesting and informative session. The speakers are here for some time, so if there's any